Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sausage dog lovers across the globe, welcome to episode number 32 of the Run It Back podcast. The boys are back this fortnight and we're back with an absolute doozy banger of a potty for you. We've got some big fights to discuss. We've got some new segments, but I won't give too much away. Snags doesn't like to do that. He'll send it over to the man with the plan, the man in charge himself, Producer DL. Tell me, how are you?
Mate, I'm good. Just living my best ISO life at the moment, unfortunately. But I promised myself I wasn't going to talk any COVID. I don't think that's why the people listen to our podcast. Surely they listen to the podcast of an update on the small bat.
100.
But we might talk a little bit of table tennis later in Run It Back
I'm
Punters
glad
Club.
You clarified that from the small bat
The small
to table
bat.
tennis. Small bat and the shiny balls, baby.
Small bat and the shiny balls. But no, mate, I'm looking forward to it. Good podcast. We're going to look at a couple of cards today. We're going to quickly jump into the Waterson v Hill, but we're only going to look at two fights on that card. And then we're going to spend a lot of time on the Covington Woodley. Bit of old school Run It Back here. We're just going to talk a lot more picks. We're not going to look at the past too much. I'm looking forward to it. But before we get rolling, let me introduce the current champion, Stoney. What's good?
Mate, plenty is good. I know we didn't want to talk about COVID too much, but case numbers are also good in Regional Vic, which can mean only one thing, DL, and that means that the Madison Square Garden of the podcast world is calling my name. So hopefully only a few weeks away, and we'll be back in that bad boy together.
Well, boys, I'll be stuck over here in mainland metropolis until I'll see you boys in 2023 by the sounds of it. But good to see the cases going down in Victoria, boys. So hopefully it stays that way. Less COVID talk, more into the man from the Freeland at the moment. Statman, how are we?
I'm doing well. I actually just hung out with several of my good friends. So
Yeah, 7 people you hung out with.
7 whole people. So actually able to be free and out and about without some severe COVID restrictions. So loving life. Should also shout out Happy Father's Day to the boys on Sunday as well. So well done on, having unprotected sex. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thanks. You should try it one time.
And that's pretty much it. Just, hanging with people outside of my own house has been fantastic.
Have you recently got a haircut?
No, I'm actually due for one.
Oh, have fun going to a barber, mate, because none of us can.
It's going to be amazing. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to send it in the group chat. It's going to be great.
Can you FaceTime us, please? I want to know what it feels like.
Yeah, man.
Well, boys, let's jump into the podcast. An old favourite or maybe a new favourite.
Baby, welcome back. It's actually not us at Snack with Chags today. We got a little bit something different for you all out here. So we're running into a new segment. I like to call it the Lie Detector with Detective Snags. Welcome, boys. So this week, the plan is a 4-part segment of this. So a 4-part series. So one of the boys is going to jump on each week. I will let myself even be connected to the lie detector so we can see, am I a truthful person? Am I not? But this week, we thought we'd start with the man that is on top of the leaderboard. So I've sent via express post the lie detector system, which is installed into Stoney's headphones and also into his microphone. So we've got some really systematic systems back here that can detect lies through the voice, through the microphone. And Stoney, mate, welcome to the lie detector.
It is good to be here as the biggest truth talker on the podcast. I look forward to the flawed results of this detector.
Mate, the system that the Run It Back podcast puts in is not flawed, my friend. So let me just quickly... Systematic systems, that's how we roll, baby. It's like table tennis all over again.
Can I just say before we get into this, DL, I am just glad that you've given Snags the key to another segment because his last one was that bad. Not only did it not make it to air, but the entire roadcaster shut itself and wouldn't let us record the rest of the podcast. So let's hope this one's a stark improvement.
Are we talking about running back court?
I think we're talking about this or that, but of course the listeners wouldn't recall that one.
That was such a good
The lost episode.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so let me talk you through how the lie detector works, my friend. So you've obviously hooked yourself up to the system, so thank you for partaking. So it's pretty simple. It's just a yes or no answer. We'll keep it black and white so we don't have to get much explanation. And just please, just yes or no for the boys, okay? And then, let the machine do its work. Welcome to the lie detector. Are you ready?
Let's roll.
Okay, Stoney, Detective Snags speaking. But first question, Stoney, is it true you're currently on top of the run it back leaderboard?
That is correct.
Oh, well done, yes. Tick there, seems like it's correct. Thank you. Question 2, Stoney, is it true that besides you, the stat man is the most consistent with picking winners?
I would believe so, yes.
Oh, second tick, that means it's correct. Well, thank you for telling the truth as per usual. I expect nothing less of you. Third question, is Anthony Smith your favourite fighter of all time?
Sorry, is he my favourite fighter of all time? No. No, Anthony Smith is categorically not.
Oh, it seems like let's come back as a lie. This is really a bit awkward. Mate, just tell the truth, please. That's all the listeners want, okay? If you're a fanboy for Anthony Smith, you don't have to keep it in the closet, okay? Keep it out there loud and proud. Fourth question. This one, please, mate, as I said, don't tell a lie again, okay? Just tell the truth to the fans. Have you ever smuggled cash through the post to Statman in exchange for his fight picks?
Negative.
Oh, Jesus, that was loud and clear, that one. Seems like we're unveiling some truths here to the listeners, so apologies for that.
It wasn't through the post.
There you go. Truth's coming out once again. Thanks for that. Next question, my friend. Do you admire Sugar Snags and wish you were as entertaining as him?
Negative.
Oh, truths is bloody off. We started off with some truths and they keep coming back lies. Look, I didn't think we'd go this way, but mate, honestly, just stick to the truth, okay? That's all the listeners want, as I said. Another question. Are you subscribed to Beck Rolling's OnlyFans?
I'm not, but I'm an ardent Reddit user who is that's not a lie. Don't buzz that. No, I'm not subscribed.
Not subscribed. Can I just reconfirm? Oh, well, why again? Oh, Jesus. Mate, I would have really appreciated some honesty here.
It's a tough crowd.
Another question. Are you the best newsbreaker in the business?
Yes.
Oh, correct. Yeah.
We knew that.
Look,
Obvious.
thank you for realising the truth and coming back to it, okay? That's all the listeners want from you. Do you sleep well at night knowing you're a fraud, top of the leaderboard by using Statman's picks?
Yes.
Tick, well done. Thank you. Thank you for telling the truth again. Fraudster Stoney, you might have to change your nickname. Mate, we've got 2 to go, and I do appreciate you coming back to the truth at the end of this segment, so well done. Second last question. Will you, again, copy Statman's picks again tonight?
Most likely.
Yep, correct. Well done. Well, we already know who you're picking, so that's out there. And last one. Is it true that the first thing you want to do after lockdown finishes is have some bevs with the boys?
That would be up there, yeah, for sure.
Tick, yeah, well done. Oh, at least we ended on a positive with those two. So, mate, thank you for giving the listeners the lowdown in the lie detector.
You are most certainly welcome.
Was a little bit disappointed in a couple of those lies throughout, but I guess you're trying to protect your brand, and that's your decision. So, but mate, we do appreciate you hooking yourself up, and I'll get you to send that to Statman, and we'll put him on the detector next week.
Oh, can't wait for that one.
Thank you.
I do. I appreciate the professionalism and how prepared you were for a change. It threw me off guard a little.
That's probably the most prepared I've ever been for a podcast.
I got a PDF yesterday of the questions. I was
That's
like,
a true story.
whoa.
I did send him an actual PDF.
An actual PDF.
PDF
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
I didn't want him tampering with the questions.
Nah. Anyway, boys, good news segment. We'll look forward to Statman's next week. Boys, let's move into Hot Take. Dylan Dennis recently tweeted an interest in Sugar Sean's pain barrier after an X-ray came back clean. Now he's talking one more fight this year, along with completely disregarding his loss in his last fight. Are we seeing a shift in popularity for Sugar Sean?
I think it should be a shift in popularity further upwards, to be honest. Obviously, the scan shows his just absolutely magical recovery skills. And I guess it's that recovery regime that he does, that he's able to heal very quickly. So fair play to the man, and I look forward to seeing him back.
Bzz, that lie detector just went off again because that is bullshit. Firmly with Dylan Dennis on this one. Unsure DL, help me out, who had a bigger fall from grace, Sugar Snags in the early days leaderboards or Sugar Sean in UFC popularity. He's taken a big hit, and it's great to see.
That's a pretty
I don't think I've ever agreed with Dylan Dennis in my entire life, but on this one I do. I do think that there's probably a way that that Sugar Sean could have spun this to get more fans and to build hype for a rematch. He spun it in the exact wrong way, and he has potentially lost me as a fan.
The UFC is already looking past Chimaev's September 19th opponent and is keen to book a matchup with Damian Maia.
Look, DL, it just makes my tip for this podcast very easy. If the UFC is looking past this one, put it in the bag.
I'm pretty sure that Damian Maia's only ever lost to either future champions or future title challengers. And I do think that's where Chimaev is heading. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. And if they did fight, I would be watching that fight very, very closely.
Ray Borg unretired himself, stating depression and stress got the best of me.
I know, sad's not the word, but I hope the dude's okay. I know many people in the sport world struggle post-retirement, so let's hope he gets on track and finds A, some form when he comes back, and then B, a love for something else because he's got to retire one day.
One of the very, very few times you will ever hear me agree with Sugar Snags. Mental health is no joke, and wishing Ray Borg all the very best with whatever's next.
Without sounding insensitive, I do believe that Ray Borg probably needs to step away from the sport. He has pulled out of more fights than any previous UFC fighter in history. He's missed weight for the few fights that he has made it to. I genuinely believe that maybe fighting isn't in it for him, and that perhaps he should expend a lot more energy on focusing on himself and his family.
Chael Sonnen in a recent interview was asked about his submission loss to Anderson Silva on UFC 117. My corner told me it was round 4, but we were in round 5. I always think, what would I do differently?
Look, this actually reminds me of a time on the podcast when the boys said, there's several opportunities for that. And I said, you mean 7? So unless Chael Sonnen can't count like Snags, I feel like he's just reminiscing of the old times. But look, we've all had a loss and we've all probably thought the better of what we could in future years. But I think that would have went the same way either way if it was round 4 or round 5.
Very interesting one, and DL, apologies in advance. I cannot keep a Chael Sonnen hot take to under 30 seconds, but I'll do my best. Really interesting because every round was very much the same in that fight where Chael would come out, land a few punches, and then go for the takedown. I don't think that his game plan would have allowed for anything differently had he have known, and I suspect he did know that it was the 5th round. But as a Chael fan, the one that really haunts me isn't that 117, it's the 148 where... And Statman will back me up here. I do not know why Chael went for a spinning back fist. So he had 2 years to correct his wrongs from that first matchup. And let's be honest, they're not hard to correct. He got a bit fatigued, a bit lazy, left his arm in the pocket. And Anderson Silva, I think Chael thought he'd mentally broke him, locked in the triangle, and the rest is history. Now, fast forward to 2012. We see Chael come out, get a 10-8 round in the first, and then tries one of the most absurd striking maneuvers for someone of Chael Sonnen's capacity. That's the one that haunts me, not 117. So Chael needs to get past that one. I want to hear his explanation for 148.
This is actually one of the few Chael Sonnen comments about the 117 fight that I actually don't find too hard to believe. I think that full of adrenaline in the middle of a fight for a title in front of 17,000 fans, it might be difficult to differentiate between 20 minutes of fighting and 15 minutes of fighting and 20 minutes of fighting. I buy that. I don't think that Sonnen would have done anything differently because he was doing exactly what he had been doing the entire fight, and he was doing exactly what he needed to win that fight, except for posting up. The second his hand hit that canvas and you watch it on replay, Anderson Silva grabs a hold of that wrist, has it for about a minute straight, and that is the one thing you don't want to do when you're facing a black belt in BJJ, especially when you have the submission defense of Chael Sonnen. So I believe that he thought that it might have been round 4. I don't think he would have changed anything in that fight.
DL, just want to quickly throw a stat in for the stat man on this one.
Like it.
So some fighters go their whole career and don't score a 10-8 round. Chael Sonnen went 6.5 rounds and scored 3 against Anderson Silva.
Watching that fight as well, I was kind of bought into the hype of Chael Sonnen talking shit to Anderson Silva, but deep in my heart, I knew that it wouldn't amount to anything. I knew that when that fight started, Anderson Silva was going to measure him up in the first round and then decimate him in the second. And when the outlandish thing that Chael Sonnen was saying would happen in the fight started to happen, it was like just like experiencing like a fairy tale come true. I was like, I can't believe that this is actually happening. He laid the game plan out so clearly, and he's executing it. And so that made the final round so heartbreaking for me, because he gave me the belief. I believed for a split second that Anderson Silva was going to lose to Chael Sonnen. And that's what stands out for me in that fight so much, is that it made me believe that this trash talk was real. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then he lost. And it caused me several years later to, along with Stoney, separately, to fly out to Vegas to watch the rematch. And that spinning back fist, oh my God.
The lesson here, DL, don't ever put Chael Sonnen on a hot take again, because we cannot do that in 30 seconds.
Don't you dare. we need a separate podcast.
We'll do a Chael Sonnen
Stoney
podcast.
and the Statman, the Sonnen Files or something.
Oh, Jesus, that's got,
That's a spin-off.
got content
That's got
written
legs,
all
I
over it.
reckon.
And that's the reason why me and Snags can't do this podcast by ourselves.
Correct.
Let's get a leaderboard update. We'll just have a quick results rundown. Statman, we looked at the one card.
We haven't looked at the 2 fights as well. So Neil Magny defeated Robbie Lawler by unanimous decision. And Alexander Raychik defeated Anthony Smith by unanimous decision.
Nice. And we had 3 bonus points issued or awarded during that night as well. 3 bonus points went to Statman, DL, and Stoney. Unfortunately, Sugar Snag. I
know that I went off the cuff, but I thought I had to, give some content and some quality to that podcast, and I think the listeners enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. All the boys got 3 except for Snags, who got 1.
Oof.
From our last spot, Sugar Snags sitting at 46, DL sitting on 51, Statman on 55, and Stoney, our champion now for a number of weeks, sitting nicely with 57.
Look, it's getting ridiculous. DL, in a lot of professional sports, when teams are that far behind the pack, the commission gets together and they start awarding priority picks. I think it's about time you start having a good hard think about awarding Snags some priority fights where he can pick and none of the other boys can. And if he gets it right, that's just a little bonus point, because this is turning into a very one-sided.
Well, Stoney, I really like where you're going with this one. So I will allow you as current champion to award Sugar Snags 2 fights across these 2 cards that will give him double the points. It can be at any time the champion wants.
Oh, gee,
I like that.
That's
I like
some
that a
bloody
lot.
power that I do not agree
God.
with.
It could be before you pick or it could be after you pick.
This was not in the rundown sheet.
No, that's the beauty of producing a podcast. Anyway, Statman, do you want to run us through this first fight we're going to look at? We're going to look at the Michelle Waterson versus Angela Hill card.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at the women's flyweight bout between Roxanne Modafferi and Andrea Lee. We've got a large card ahead of us, so I thought I'd get in nice and quick with a very quick stat. When Roxanne Modafferi made her MMA debut, UFC fighter Chase Hooper was just 4 years old. So she's been fighting in the game for a long time, and I think he'd only just turned 4 at the time when she made her MMA debut. She is one of the pioneers of this sport. However, I do think that perhaps in this fight, time is not on her side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dale. We're actually taking predictions for the finish on this fight as well.
We are.
I'm going Andrea Lee by decision. And you guys love me talking about John Jones. I know you do.
Oh,
Dominic
my God.
Reyes.
Come on, this is a long podcast.
Dominic Reyes was not the only one robbed on the 247 card. So one of the worst pieces of judging I've ever seen came on that card in the form of Andrea Lee versus Lauren Murphy. 2 judges were the only 2 people in the world who gave that fight to Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy then went on in her next fight to convincingly beat Roxanne Modafferi. Using MMA math to kind of work out who's better than who doesn't always work out, but I do trust it this time around. I think Andrea Lee by decision, I think it should be a relatively easy fight for her.
Look, absolutely. Roxy is my girl and it pains me to tip against her, but Andrea Lee, also a split decision loss to my other girl, the bad mofo Jojo. So, look, I'm predicting Lee to bounce back and I've also got her by decision as well.
I'm also taking Lee, and before anyone tunes into the podcast or DMs us, we understand that this may not be a co-main event. So we're picking decisions. I think it's going to go to a decision.
That was a lot of decisions.
Several decisions.
Do you know what? I've got several decisions as well.
7 decisions.
Look, boys, unlike Snags, usually I'm going to go with the pack on this one. Okay? So I would love to sing the song Roxanne, but I'm not going to. Andrea Lee for me by decision as per the boys.
4 from 4.
So it's four decisions.
Speaking of decisions, I'd like to execute
decisions.
one of my 2 decisions right now, DL, if that's all right. I'd like to throw it over to Sugar Snags for Bobby Green versus Alan Patrick, also on this card.
You can't do that without any research.
And clearly an oracle of MMA such as Sugar Snags won't need to do research. He will already have his tip in mind for this one.
So I thought it doubled the points of a pick on the podcast. I didn't think he'd have to
So
say
just mean I get my own fight, and if it gets up, I get 2 points for that fight.
You are the only one who gets to pick this one.
Ooh,
Okay,
this is like a bonus
I think
one.
I'm going to go... Wait, who will I get? Bobby Green and Alan Patrick?
Yeah.
Bobby Green's a cool name, so I'm going Bobby Green.
And that, boys and girls, is why Sugar Snags is last on the runnerback
Taking
leaderboard.
the dog.
Wait, do I get to get 2 points if he gets up?
No, you just get a bonus point if he gets up.
Yeah,
and then
'cause
you'll
we're
have
not
another
tipping this
opportunity
fight.
later on in
The clarity here is not great, and I do not enjoy it.
You're actually putting the stat man to shame with how many times DL had to repeat the power rankings. I feel like I need to draw a diagram on how priority picks work. You've done one. Later in the podcast, we'll come back. I'll give you another fight, and you just choose a winner. It's a really simple concept. Snags. Come on.
Well, I think your headache's getting to your head because DL said that I could choose one fight and you could let me get a
No, I
bonus
said
point for
Stoney
that
can
fight.
choose how he wants to do the points.
Oh, look, the decisions just going everywhere, aren't they, boys? Go Bobby Green, baby.
Moving on to the main event of UFC Vegas 10. We've got the UFC women's strawweight fight between Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill. Angela Hill is the granddaughter of Barney Hill, the first person to make national news in relation to alien abductions in the 1960s. Barney and his wife were out traveling and they got abducted by aliens, allegedly. They then confirmed, allegedly, the incident through hypnosis, and they recalled the events with perfect clarity. So whether or not you believe the case, it's pretty interesting that Angela Hill is related to kind of paranormal royalty, as it were. As far as this fight goes, Michelle Waterson has only ever been finished by strikes once in the past until now. So I'm taking Angela Hill by 3rd round TKO.
Listeners of the Sonophiles will know that I'm all about that paranormal activity, Statman. Looking forward to this one, the old karate versus kickboxing showdown. Speaking of karate, I've been watching a little bit of Cobra Kai on Netflix. Personally, I'm more of a Johnny Lawrence strike first, strike hard, no mercy kind of guy. But unfortunately, Michelle strikes me a bit more as a product of Miyagi-Do. And obviously, as our arch rivals, on that basis alone, I will tip against Mr. Miyagi, against Daniel-san, and against Michelle Waterson. I'm going Angela Hill by decision.
Wow, that was good. I'm going to take the karate hottie because I do all the time. I just actually, before I jumped on the podcast, I watched the Manscaped commercial that she does with her husband tonight, and I've seen
That's
that
everywhere.
Manscaped. I've seen Manscaped
That's everywhere.
commercials all the time, and I've never ever thought about buying the package until I seen that Michelle Waterson ad. So if you haven't
It's a
seen it,
good
lads,
product.
get around it.
Let's put it out there. They are
Does.
pumping the
Does.
the advertising, boys. Just saying. Not with us, though. But if
are.
they want to, let me know.
Jesus Christ.
So I'm taking Michelle Waterson. I think it's another decision.
Then I'm going to take Angelina Hill, boys. I think I'm going to go a round 3 TKO. It's too many decisions for me tonight, so I think I'm going to put a closer on this one. Love Michelle Waterson, but I just don't think she's going to get the job done against Hill, so going for Hill.
How can you take Stoney to task for copying picks when you go round 3 TKO by Angela Hill?
I'm sorry, Statman. Are you questioning my authenticity over here?
Just that word.
Authenticity? I can't even say it. Shit.
Statman, I'd just like to jump in. He didn't copy your pick. I'm pretty sure if we replay the tape, it was Angelina Hill.
Oh, that's true.
Right, you know Snags gets too excited when he's talking picks, boys. Angelina Hill. Just dub that in for me.
Angelina Hill.
Breaking news with Stoney.
Boys, some big news coming out of MMA circles today. The much-awaited return, potentially, an MMA legend, Nick Diaz. So his manager made an appearance on Ariel Helwani's podcast and mentioned that Nick is firmly back in the realms of making a comeback. They're targeting 2021. They've tested the weight cuts. He's hovering around the 165 to 175. They're looking at the welterweight division. I'm keen to get the boys' thoughts on this one. Nick Diaz is certainly a favourite of mine personally. I assume he's a favourite on the podcast as well. 37 years old, last fought in 2015 when he crossed paths with Anderson Silva. What do we think, boys? Is this going to be the comeback that everyone hopes for Nick Diaz, or are we cringing a little bit at this one? Is this, does it reek a little bit of BJ Penn where this could end badly? I'm really keen to hear what we think on the podcast.
Diaz looks solid in his last bout out with Anderson Silva. Is a little bit lackluster for my liking. The 37 worries me less than the 2015. 5 years, 6 years by the time potentially he comes back that's not ring rust at that point. That is something unseen. So as much as I love the Nick Diaz circus, as much as I love his fighting style, his attitude towards fighting, the height that he brings it, I don't know if there's necessarily a fight at welterweight or middleweight or lightweight even based on that weight class that the manager was kind of chucking out. I don't know if there's a fight there short of maybe Cowboy, maybe Conor McGregor, maybe. But anyone who shares the spotlight with Nick Diaz and is a comparable name or an interesting name is just going to blow him out of the water. Jorge Masvidal will crush Nick Diaz. I reckon they could sell us a Nick Diaz Jorge Masvidal fight. I reckon that would be great, especially after Nate Diaz Jorge Masvidal 2 fight that they're bending about. Jorge Masvidal's fought at a decent clip the last couple of years. It would be almost unfair to put him in with Nick Diaz at this point because Nick Diaz has 5.5 years of ring rust build up. I think Nick Diaz, his ideal time to return was maybe 2-3 years ago. At this point, maybe stay retired, open up a BJJ class, make your money that way. Retire on that. Just live. Like I'm sure that he works with Renzo Gracie still.
I think
I'm
both
sure
the
that
Diaz
he
brothers
still
have an
makes a fair
academy,
bit of
don't
money
they?
from coaching.
I swear they got one together.
I know that not Renzo Gracie. I know that it was Cesar Gracie for a long time, but if they have their own one, sure. I know that Nick Diaz tried to start his own MMA promotion, War MMA, a long time ago. That had one event and then I think dipped down. But I mean, there's other things to do, media appearance to cash in on as a Diaz brother that don't involve you getting back in the cage after
You know what?
so
Just for
many
your
years
stats,
away.
he does have a jiu-jitsu academy. Do you know what it's called, Craig? It's called the Nick Diaz
that, mate?
Academy.
That makes sense. That's about as creative as I expected it.
Oh, boys. Look, we put it on... I didn't, but the runner back Twitter account put it on. Who would you like to see Nick Diaz fight? And the one that springs to mind, you've hit the nail on the head. Jorge Masvidal, does seem well and truly above a Nick Diaz comeback fight, but I just think you could sell that story so well, especially if Jorge gets over Nate, as everyone, I guess, expects in the next fight. Beating Nate twice, in comes the bigger brother. I think you could really sell it. It's a bit of a marketer's dream. The thing that really gets me with Nick, he's still, rolling with Nate. They've got some really legit guys down there. People are looking at Nate Diaz saying, he's washed up, he's a bit of a joke. Yeah, you run back just before the Masvidal fight, and he stitched up Anthony Pettis in really convincing fashion, coming off the Conor McGregor war, coming off the upset of Conor McGregor. So sure, it's a long time between drinks for Nate Diaz, but he's still been, mixing it with some of the top guys out there. So I couldn't imagine Nick Diaz would entertain the thought of coming back if he is slipping against Nate, who's still, going up against some of these big names. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to watching this space. Like the stat man, I'm not sure what they're going to do with Nick Diaz because you can't give him a rank 10 to 15 person. It needs to be a big fight. Nick's not coming back for anything but a money fight. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing what happens. As a big fan of the Diaz boys, bring on 2021. Let's
jump into the next card.
Perfect. So we head to UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Woodley. We're not going to pick results for this fight, but I thought we'd give a shout out to podcast favorite Jessica Rose Clark against Sarah Alper. So we'll be watching that fight very closely.
No, I'm joking. I'm not
picking. Do you want to expend one
fight.
of your points? Do you want to expend one of your points to force Snags to put his money where his mouth is?
Ooh. No, I want to decline that. I've got another one lined up.
Thank God.
It's a little bit
I do back Jess.
We all support Jess. We love our Australian fighters.
We do. We're an Australian MMA podcast, people. Come on.
And we move into what is a absolutely stacked card at the UFC Apex facility. Maybe the last card in the Apex facility had a slew of fights fall through due to COVID-19. So I think that Fight Island seemed to work a little bit better as a self-contained facility. But the last fight at the Apex facility for quite some time, let us get into it with Mackenzie Dern versus Randa Marcos. Earlier this year, Mackenzie Dern became the first female in UFC history to pull off a leg lock submission, her last fight out, despite it taking 2,653 days between the first women's MMA fight in the UFC and the very first leg lock performed by a woman in the UFC. It would take only 50 days for the second one to occur when Ariane Lipski locked in her gruesome knee bar on Luana Carolina. I think I shared it in the group chat, that image of Carolina on the ground with her knee bent at a horrible angle, screaming and tapping out. It seems to be the case where you have a specific thing. I know that the Suluev stretch, we had a case where the second and third Suluev stretch in UFC history occurred on the same night, several thousand days after the first occurrence of it. So sometimes these things happen. It's the Baader-Meinhof principle, where you don't hear something for a long time, and then suddenly the second you hear about it, you see it everywhere. And that's what MMA, women's MMA, is with leg lock submissions at the moment. As long as my stat was, my prediction will be much shorter. Mackenzie Dern.
How are we doing?
Are we doing finishes on this one, boys?
No, not this one.
I just learned so much on this podcast.
Look, short and sweet as well. I see it going to the ground and I see it panning out. As you would expect a black belt versus a purple belt to happen, Dern will win by submission at some point during the fight.
Yeah, super impressive in her last outing. And it was on a Woodley card as well, so she'll get this done in one.
Oh, big call. I'm going Dern as well, boys. Not going to call a finish because I don't need to, but look forward to the victory.
Dern's all around.
Dern's all around. We'll move on. Probably the hottest fight on this card that is not in any of the main or co-main slots. In the 17 days between Chimaev's signing with the UFC and winning his second UFC bout, Chimaev scored 2 complete blowout victories. The striking differential in his first fight against 33-fight veteran John Phillips was 124-2. His second fight saw him end the fight in just 3 minutes, but not before outlanding his opponent 68-0. His current significant striking output is 8.88 significant strikes landed per minute, which, if maintained, will have him at the very top of the UFC leaderboard, replacing such fighters as Justin Gaethje and Paulo Costa at the very, very top. Gerald Meerschaert is very upset that Khamzat Chimaev is looking past him for a potential Damian Maia fight. I would be very upset too. It's very disrespectful of the UFC to start entertaining this, but it is not in any way unwarranted. Chimaev has this. Chimaev has this in pretty much any way that he wants it, and he takes this fight for sure.
100%. If the company is looking past this fight, Stoney is also looking past this fight. Chimaev will get this done very, very quickly, I believe.
Yeah, Chimaev for me as well. I'm on that hype train.
Boys, I'm going to go Chimaev as well. And just for a little stat, did anyone see the recent online footage of him supposedly dropping Gustafsson in sparring?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Could have been in the
scary
power rankings.
boy.
I should have brought it up. Apologies.
He's taking fights at both welterweight and middleweight. He legitimately doesn't care. He'll take fights wherever. Terrifying, man. Honestly, he's a 180-pound Khabib at this point. Moving on to the next fight on the card, we've got Ryan Spann versus Johnny Walker. Ryan Spann currently holds the fastest submission victory and the fastest TKO defeat in Dana White's Contender Series history. Combined, the fights took just 41 seconds to make their way into the record books. This fight's an interesting one. I do believe that when I was watching Johnny Walker's last fight, I said to myself that I would never back him again, or I would at the very least be very, 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 very hesitant to buy my ticket on his hype train. I'm going to hold on this. I don't think Spann is necessarily a world beater, but I do think that he hits too hard and Johnny Walker is too hittable for this fight to go too long. I'm taking Ryan Spann in this one.
Boys, my hand is raised. I brought into the hype of Johnny Walker. I genuinely thought he beat Corey Anderson all those months. Was it years ago? 2020's just blurred into one big year. I thought he beat Corey Anderson. I thought he'd make a case for a title shot in maybe another 1 or 2 fights down the line against Johnny Bones Jones. Look, I was massively wrong with that prediction, but DL knows me well. He knows I'm not someone who jumps off the bus at first sight of adversity. So I'm sticking with one of my boys, Johnny Walker. I'm going for an early KO in this one.
Nice. I think Spann's legit though, and I'm being a little bit disappointed with old mate Johnny Walker. You know, Spann's been on he lost in season 1 of the Contender Series and has been undefeated ever since. So I think that's going to continue when he's going to take Johnny Walker. It's not going to decision. I know we're not picking, but I think it could be a knockout like the boys think.
Ooh, look out. To further express what DL was saying, 8-fight win streak, boys. 8 fights. So I'm going to go Ryan Spann as well. I think he'll get it done over Johnny Walker.
So as DL touched on, we're not 100% sure where these cards will lie. So we have kind of gone through and detected which ones we think that will hold the most weight when it comes to fight cards. So bear with us if it doesn't end up shaking like this, but we move on to our co-main event of this fight card, Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Nico Price. Much has been made of Cowboy Cerrone's willingness to fight. He once got into a backstage fight with regional light heavyweight talent Marcus Sursa over Sursa's ex and Cerrone's then girlfriend, now wife, Lindsay Sheffield. The fight was eventually broken up, but Sursa was cut on his eyeline and could not compete on the card. So technically, I think Donald Cerrone wins that fight by TKO. As far as this fight goes, Nico Price is one of the funnest fighters in the game. He either goes out there, wins spectacularly, or loses spectacularly. I reckon he should take this one. I don't think Donald Cerrone has much left in the tank. I am taking Nico Price, and here's where I hedge my bets against Stoney. Round 1 TKO. Have I taken your pick? You look disappointed.
I did have that as a
a
round
joke.
1 TKO, so we'll just cut straight to it. I'm going to go round 2 TKO, but yeah, look, I'm just starting to get to the point where you just feel bad for Donald. I thought he was done heading into the Alex Hernandez fight, and that's going back a long, long way. And obviously he caused, according to the bookies, he caused an upset. He beat Alex Hernandez, who's then gone on to do absolutely jack all. So that's, you question the legitimacy. Was that as big of a deal as what we thought at the time? I really hope is this going to be his last fight, Statman?
I don't think so. I think Cowboy's lifestyle does not allow him to retire at this point. I think he's too beholden to the regular paychecks that the UFC provide him. And he does not ever seem like an investor or a saver. So I think he'll be fighting well into his 40s, honestly.
Yeah, look, it's a shame. I wish Donald well, but I think Nico Price gets this done, boys.
Yeah, I'm the same, boys. Look, this isn't good for Cerrone. This is not good for Cerrone. But let the record show that in my heart, I want Cerrone to win. But taking Nico Price, I'm also going to take TKO carry, but it's going to be quick. It's going to be round 1.
Do you reckon Nico's fought the level of fighters that Cerrone's fought in the last couple of fights, though?
Probably not, honestly. But I don't think that Donald Cerrone is at the place in his career now where he can compete with that level. You look at the Conor McGregor's and the Anthony Pettis's on Donald Cerrone's recent record. At least with Anthony Pettis, he's not the same fighter that he was 5 years ago as well. So a loss to Anthony Pettis in 2020 is worse for the record than a loss to Anthony Pettis, say, in 2015. The level of fighter and the age of the fighter and where they are in their career, it doesn't paint a pretty picture for Cowboy Cerrone.
It's an interesting one, boys, to be honest. Snags is going to go Cowboy. I think the experience and the level of fights he's had previously compared to Nico Price is going to be the upper hand. And I don't think you can ever count Cowboy out for a fight. So I'm going to go on a limb here and say Cowboy, and I'm going to say around 3 TKO. And I don't think that's out of the ballpark, to be honest. It'll be, depends who shows up on the night.
I genuinely think that Price is like a live by the sword, die by the sword person. I can envision a world where Donald Cerrone comes out and starches him like he did Rick Story. But I just think that the odds of that one is probably a little bit lower. So I'll be watching it intently and watching it very, very excitedly because you always kind of hope that a fan favorite fighter returns to their previous form. But MMA is a cruel sport, so more often than not, you don't get that kind of fairy tale.
You never know, boys. We'll see how it goes. I think Cerrone's paying about $2.25 or something. So interesting.
Oof.
DL, I just wanted to jump in and say that surprisingly in-depth analysis there by Sugar Snags. I thought it was going to be Cowboy because he has a cool nickname. So, you certainly
Mate,
surprised me on that one.
Victoria, not me, mate. I'm the city slicker. Thank you very much. Yeehaw.
Now, boys, we are known as the Run It Back MMA podcast, not the UFC podcast. So for Sugar Snags' second priority pick, we're actually going to cross promotion. We're going to jump into Bellator, and we're going to look at the main event. I don't want to hear who's got the cooler name because this one's pretty obvious, Sugar Snags. I want to hear who gets the job done and why. Phil Davis versus Lyoto Machida.
Oh, that's a true. I think that's an easy one in my book. So I'm going to go Phil Davis.
And why?
I think Machida is. Oh, it's probably awkward to say because I've just picked Donald Cerrone, but I'm going to say he's past his time, my friend. I think Phil Davis is going to get the job done here pretty easy. Not to really look into the stats too much, but I can't remember the last time I saw Machida fight and get a decisive victory, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm going to go Phil Davis for the win. Do you want me to pick a finish?
Very good. I think his last decisive win might have been his last fight, was it, Statman?
Lyoto Machida.
Did he beat Chael Sonnen in his last fight?
I believe it. I mean, that's like that's peak Bellator at that point. I don't know if you call it like a career resurgence win or anything like that. It was a win.
Boys, I stand corrected. He went down to Masasi, who's no joke. So he beat Chael Sonnen and then lost to Masasi in a split decision. So there we have it. All right, so Sugar Snags has 2 priority picks, Bobby Green and Phil Davis. Watch this space. That could get him back. That might be the difference, DL, between double figures and single figures in terms of deficit. So
Godspeed.
Sugar
I'll put the
Snags, we
challenge
wish you
out to you.
well.
Let me pick the finish for Phil Davis for an extra point.
Now he's negotiating his points.
No. I learned the hard way. Because I tried to do this with DL in a very early podcast, and he said we do not negotiate on the run back. I like that hard line
just for
approach.
listeners out there, because they know Snags loves a little gamble, I'm going to go round 2 TKO, boys.
Put 50 on it for us.
Might even chuck it in the
Screenshot
old
that.
sugar
Post to
daddy
Twitter.
later.
This card's really impressive because we're picking for 7 fights with 4 bonus picks. Snags has 2 extra bonus picks, which means that he could potentially pick up a whole 13 points.
Woo.
He's only 11 points behind Stoney. So thinking best case scenario for Snags, worst case scenario for Stoney, we could see Snags as the runner back.
I don't think we can because we've picked a couple of the same fighters.
No, we cannot.
No, you absolutely can't. So that's fine. But
That's why he's the stat man and not the mathematician.
it was a nice fantasy
That
world that I was
systematic
living
system
in.
that you put in place does not work.
And we're moving on to our final fight of the evening.
It's time!
Welterweight fight with title elimination written all across it. Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. Of the 6 times that Tyron Woodley's UFC opponents have landed more than 40 strikes on him, Woodley has only won 1 of them, which was a majority decision over Stephen Thompson. Colby has landed 40 plus strikes in each of his last 6 fights, averaging 105 strikes landed per fight in those fights. This fight for me is pretty open and shut. Colby Covington, despite coming off a loss in his last bout, probably impressed me more in defeat than he had in many victories before it. Whereas Tyron Woodley, I have gone completely off. I don't think I'll ever safely pick a Tyron Woodley victory ever again. He shows up listless. He shows up looking tired, bored, confused, backing up and loading up a big right that never throws. So I don't know if he's dealing with some nagging injuries or if and he's ready to unleash on Colby Covington. But from current form, I'm taking Colby Covington by decision in this fight. I was very, very close to predicting a finish in this one, which is not something I would normally do from a Covington fight. But given how he came out against Usman, maybe I reckon that Covington could probably finish Woodley. But to play it safe, I'm going to go for Covington by decision.
And watch one by one as all the boys come rolling back onto the Colby train for this one. Colby, he's going to bring far too much pace for the old stuck in the mud T Wood. Sure, he's got his big cannon. I won't lie. He could catch Colby. Like that is a possibility for sure. But I see this one going very, very similar. The boys will remember the Robbie Lawler fight where Colby just absolutely overwhelmed him with volume. I think that's how this one goes. And Colby Covington is not a finisher. Like you look at his last 5 wins before, obviously he lost to Usman. His previous 5 fights that he won were all decisions. So I think it'd be remiss to tip anything but a decision. And I just hope it's not a lackluster affair as a lot of Woodley fights are turning out to be. But I don't think Colby's going to allow that. I think he's going to want to make a statement and show that he wants to jump right back in there with Kamaru Usman. And he knows that he doesn't get that without a real showing in this one. So I'm expecting a really good performance from Covington.
Boys, I'm going Woodley.
Oh, what?
Oh,
Oh, God.
you're a fucking idiot.
Good luck.
He has to. He's your boy, DL.
He's my
your
boy.
I was nearly going to goat you in and say I'm looking forward to going head-to-head with DL because he can't possibly tip against his boy,
He's my
T
boy.
Wood. But I thought I don't want to do that because that's a prick of a thing to do. And then you've just taken it out of my hands and tipped him anyway.
I've
So
tipped
credit
him.
to you, sir.
You run a podcast. How can you possibly respect someone who runs a podcast called Morning Wood with D's Nuts? How can you possibly respect anyone who puts that podcast name out on Apple Podcasts?
Well, I was actually going to put to the boys that we should probably look at changing our name, but based on that feedback, I'll keep my thoughts to myself.
Boys, I don't know. I'm loyal. It's just how I roll. So Woodley for me. And you know what? If I'm going to go, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go round 1 knockout.
Oh, Jesus. We've got 2 things for the boys. Actually, 3 including my pick. 1, name change would be, instead of Run It Back Podcast, would be Rub It Back Podcast. I thought that one was a good one, to be honest, but we'll leave that for future reference. Number 2, I'm going to give this one to DL. You can answer me on this. Knock, knock.
Who's that?
Broken pencil.
Broken pencil who?
Don't worry about it. It's got no point. Just like me picking Woodley because he's going to get done, boys. I'm going to go not Woodley for this win. Just like a broken pencil, he's not going to get up. I'm going to go Colby, and it's going to be a decision from Snags.
Let's move into the real money and our last segment of the podcast today, our Runner Back Punters Club. Well, boys, unfortunately, no winners last week, as per usual. We did take it a little bit more serious, though. This is not sugar value with Snags. This is a serious punters club, and we want to get some wins for the boys. So our 4-leg multi failed on its first leg, where Peter Wright, our darts man, drew.
Sorry, boys.
We thought that it was going to be void, but then we figured out there was a draw option in that match, so we lost. Geelong for the line. 9.5. Well done, Stoney. Stoney got us over line on that leg. Then we had the USC fight. I think that was the COVID pullout, Statman. That was your one.
Yeah, it was void.
Yep. Yeah,
So that
it
was
was
void?
it was the second fight for that one, and it was called off post weigh-ins, which
Yeah.
was really, really disappointing. The morning of the fights, so.
And then we had Oklahoma City Thunder to take the series against the Rockets. Actually went to Game 7, so it was actually good. It went down to one of the last plays of the match, so for Game 7. So that was pretty crazy. Have the boys had any wins over the weekend since the last podcast, boys?
Did we? Is this since last potty we had the table tennis run?
I think we may have had a little small bat hit.
We had a good small bet run. Investment of $20 over 4 people.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah. Pulled out.
We got a 7-leg small bat multi.
Pulled out was 1,800.
Right. Yeah, it was a nice little win for the boys.
Good.
So,
Got on a couple of $2 pluses. Got us up there.
boys, this week on the podcast, this week's $10 investor is Sugar Snags.
Welcome, boys.
So I thought I'd kick off leg 1 this week, and I'm going into the world of NFL. Just going to be smart about it. Going to take a nice shore up first leg. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's only $1.25.
That's very short.
Snags? Yeah, $1.25, but
It has
I like it.
entered the bet slip, my friend. Kansas City Chiefs over the Texans.
Statman.
For leg 2, I'm going to get us back to our roots. We're an MMA related podcast. I'm going to put some money on an MMA fight, and we're going to Bellator, where I am backing up Sugar Snags, which is not a sentence that I thought I'd say. I'm going Phil Davis over Lyoto Machida.
Nice.
That's at $1.26, so we're not very far. It was not very valuable, but proceed.
Let's get some money in the kitty, Snags. Let's get some money in the kitties.
Proceed,
All right.
my friend. Stoney.
Stoney could have something for us though.
Yeah, but look, I do. I know it's going to depend on what you boys went as to how risque we're going to approach this one. So also like UDL, darting over into the world of NFL, looking at Miami Dolphins. Ooh. My boys adopted as of November last year, and I think they went on a big streak. So looking for the boys to start off 2020 with a absolute bang. They're against New England Patriots, minus Tom Brady. A little bit of disruption in that offense. You know, I think the Dolphins are a sneaky play here. So from 1 to 13 points, they're paying $3.90. A little bit tempted. This could be a blowout, boys. I'm thinking the Miami Dolphins by 14 plus at $11.50 just to get the boys back in with a little bit of value.
Wow. Jesus. You don't think Cam Newton can come into that offense and light it up?
As a former Panthers fan, I've seen the best of Cam Newton, and that was a long, long time ago. So no, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool.
14 plus. Entered into the bet slip.
Yeah, wow. What are we looking
at? Very improved defense, boys, over the off season. So I expect big things from the Dolphins.
Is Tua starting as QB?
No, he's not. Which actually works. I think that works favourably for this matchup. Fitzgerald and Devontae Parker had pretty good connection last year, as Sugar Snags will attest. I'm optimistic. I think this is for an $11.50. This is as close to a sure thing for those odds that you will get.
Oh, righty then.
I do enjoy a bit of footy chat on the potty. Thanks, boys.
Look, Snags is going to give it to the boys again. Red or blue pill, my friend. Stoney.
Oh,
blue is the colour.
This is the Broncos again. We're out.
I'm going to copy Stoney this time around. I'm going to go blue.
I'm going to go red.
And DL doesn't really matter.
Red.
You're going to go blue anyway. It's 2v1, mate. So blue means Snags is also going to the world of NFL. the other world was the world of darts again, my friends.
I'm glad we avoided that one.
I will let you know what I was going to go. Meaning that I'm actually going for the higher priced option this time. I was going for a sure thing in darts with no draw in that one. So I'll let you know. I'm going to go, I don't know if you call it a long shot, but $2.55 outsider. I'm going to go the Bengals with Joe Burrow. First game off the rank as a rookie, number 1 pick in the draft. And he's playing against the Chargers, so we're going to see if he can bring him home. So 255 going into the bet slip, boys, which thanks to Stoney actually brings our bet slip up to 45.44.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So $10 on that
be
bad
nice,
boy,
kitty.
and then we might power play it as well. So it takes us to 52.50 on the old sports bet. 5.25 return.
Excellent, boys.
Love it.
We'll get that up on our socials if anyone wants to have a punt along with us. Hopefully we start getting some money in the kitty and get this thing rolling. Boys, that wraps up episode 32 of the podcast. If you like what we're doing, hit us up on all our socials. Like, share, comment, or subscribe to the podcast. That's us for episode 32, boys. My name is Daniel.
My name is Sugar Snags.
My name is the Stat Man.
And my name is Stoney.
And we'll catch you guys next on the Run It Back podcast.
Oh, Jesus.
I was trying to find the rib outro button.
Mate, you're a basket case tonight with the buttons.
Oh, I did one wrong
You
button.
took 3, I think.
No, I didn't.
And we'll run it.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, it's my go. I need to be doing it.
Silence.
Oh, boys,
Just
well done. Appreciate it.
I'm actually happy where I've got on my buttons. I'm a broadcaster. I've just hasn't really nailed all the